All right. Good morning. Sorry I am late. Yep, had a few interesting things happen this morning, and yeah, anyways, half hour late. I hope that wasn't a problem for anyone. Yeah. So that being said, let's talk about maybe the biggest news of today. And that is I am thinking about moving the time of this from a half an hour before now to Sundays at 4 p.m. I'm going to say Eastern time, whether that's daylight or the Eastern United States time. 4 p.m. on Sundays. That's what I'm thinking. Now, I'm not thinking that for next week because I already have plans with some friends. I actually have friends at 4 p.m. on next Sunday because that wasn't originally in the plans. So, not next week. So, next week will be at the regular time, and we'll talk about it one more time next week, next Monday. But I think that will work better for everyone, myself included, because I have to get up really early for this. And like today, I was a little bit late. One of the reasons was I woke up late, and then like even Discord had to be updated, which if you're on Linux and you have to update Discord is basically a manual process and horrifying. So anyways, there's just a bunch of stuff that happened, and then my cat needed like a bunch of stuff because like I said, comedy of errors, or not errors, but stuff. So, anyhow, I think 4 p.m. on Sunday will work better if that works for everyone. If you really don't want that, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear why. It will also be better for more of my audience, I think. Again, let me know because if I don't know where you live, there'd be no way for me to know if it's better for everybody. Anyways, okay, enough rambling on this. Good morning, Gregory. How are you? Russell. Good morning, everyone. So yeah, let me know if 4 p.m. Eastern United States time works better for you. If it doesn't, let me know. All right, as usual, everything on this show is my own personal. I haven't been paid one way or another to say anything. So, yep. And nobody's asked me to say anything, and I don't represent my company, past, present, or future, blah, blah, blah. Got it. Let's move on to security. As everyone knows by now, we start with security, we move on to the clouds, and then we do a little bit of engineering blogs and things like that, which I have a couple interesting topics, not really blogs. And then we will round it out with open source projects of a given category that you all give input into. And that's really great. And we'll open up a new one for next week as well. So let's jump into security because there was actually a few things, one big thing that we really need to talk about. This is being called, I think it's being called Text4j, Log4J. Anyways, it has it has a I completely lost how to speak. 1 second. I think. Well, that's interesting. Very interesting. 1 second. This is like showing. Oh, very interesting. Hmm. Give me just 1 second. It's not actually showing my screen, but I don't know. Oh, I know how it's not. I didn't plug in the cable. sometimes helps. This morning, could it get any better? The answer is no. You all are here, and that's all that matters. I'm going to, as some have accused me, pull out my Canadian side. I assure you I'm not Canadian. Not that I'm generally offended. But I'm sorry. Let's see if this actually fixes this. Let me see if, let's see. I don't get how. I don't get how it's showing what it is. It's not on my screen. It's showing. Check it out. Check it out. This is interesting. This is interesting. Live debugging. It is showing this, which was from last week. But that's not. Let me try the tried and true classic of unplug it and plug it back in. Let's see. Let's see. So this is an interesting setup that I have here because my laptop likes to die if I try to stream directly from it. So I actually have the monitor output go to a device that then splits it and sends one signal to the monitor and one signal to the Mac. There we go. I didn't unplug it and replug it in before the stream. Sorry about that. All right. Well, anyways, that being said, so there's actually a little Mac Mini that I nailed to the wall that actually streams it while my computer can just focus on running Firefox, because doing both with so many tabs open is a little bit of a challenge for the poor thing. All right, so back to our security. Apologize for the interruption. It is kind of a fun setup, though. Anyhow, let's talk about Text4j here. If you have a Java application, you need to check this out. I have 3 different things here for you to view. I'm going to put it at the top of the comments. I don't do Java, so I don't have this problem, but it's probably better to be on top of this than have the whole last minute. I know last time with like Log4J, it was like a couple days before Christmas and people were going out, that everyone was like spending 24-hour days making sure that they had to ensure that they weren't impacted by it. And the biggest thing I believe Red Hat gives as far as they have like what is a critical impact versus low impact. But this flaw may be avoided by ensuring that any external inputs used with the commons text lookup methods are sanitized properly. So they're yeah, so and anyways, then they track the packages they have that have any of the affected statuses on it, but you should also check your application as well about affected status of it, as well as whether it's patched or not. So definitely go and check that out if you run a Java application. If you don't, forget all of this. Another interesting thing on security I found here was this: location data could be exposed in WhatsApp, Signal, and Therma. I don't know what Therma is, to be honest. I'm assuming it's a secure messaging platform like Signal. Basically, there's a timing attack that they do to get location information. I guess it's only accurate 80% of the time, but that's still pretty interesting. So this kind of goes into it, and yeah, the attack is limited in application, can only really be used in specific targets to whom you have knowledge. It requires a message to contact them in a known location. So it has a lot of very specific things. but it's still interesting that they can do it. Let's move on to actually some more practical stuff for you all. There are 2 Git security vulnerabilities that were announced. So these are the 2 CVEs. I have the issues that were open for them. One is only a moderate local clone optimization dereference symbolic links by default, which can be security. Dereferencing symbolic links by default can have some security implications, but it also, I'm not sure that this is a really big deal. This one, the heap overflow in Git shell leading to a remote code execution, is a pretty big deal. So this is one that you probably should be looking for, especially if you do things like Git ops. So Git shell is a restricted login shell that can be used to implement Git's push-pull functionality via SSH. So anyways, this is definitely one you should be looking for and patching for. So Git released actually a really good overview, or GitHub released a really good overview for it. So I would definitely check out their blog post on it if you're wanting to know what to do. I mean, the easiest thing is make sure that you're on the latest Git version. That's just patch it. Russell brings up a good question with the text4j. I don't know Java very well, or the ecosystem. From my reading online, it is widely used. How widely is that? I don't know. I don't know how widely Log4j is versus the Apache text commons, or Apache Commons text. I don't know comparatively which one is more widely used. I couldn't tell you. Because I'm not in that ecosystem every single day. I haven't been in it. I would love if one of you all is a big Java person to leave a comment and let us know how widely used this is. Not if you use it or not, although it would be cool to know, and what you've done to mitigate the issue, but also how widely it is used in the ecosystem, in the projects. So absolutely, that's a fantastic question. All I know from reading online is that it's widely used. So, all right. So I read this. Why security teams are losing trust in the term zero trust. And the quick and easy answer is merely it's zero trust. You can't trust it, or else that wouldn't be zero trust. I mean, this is just simple logic. Sorry, that was a joke. But I think part of the problem goes to, and this is a fairly decent article, not terribly long, not terribly difficult. It's more about human mentality. But what I would tell you is this: real zero trust is impossible. My teams strive for zero trust, but in the end, implementing absolute zero trust in everything is either impossible or infeasible at the time for the number of people that you have, for the size team you are. It's probably impossible to be perfectly zero trust. And so if you then say that zero trust is some gradient, now, what is that gradient? How do you define it? And what does that even mean? And that's where people really lose the trust in the term zero trust. And I think what's important is in your decision making. When you make architectural design records and you document things, part of each one of those things is how do we implement zero trust on this, and make sure that we keep it in mind, because if you don't, it's actually the harder thing to do, and you're going to end up deviating from it for no reason at all other than you didn't think about it. So anyways, that is, I think, the biggest deal of why people are losing some trust in the word. And that's it for the security. Now, I had an article on a hacking drone, but I only found it in one spot on the internet, and I couldn't validate it in any amount of, like, just roughly. But basically, you know how people do drive-bys. This was... Sorry. That was loud. This was basically doing like a Wi-Fi drive-by with a drone. Like strap some computer to it. But trying to like hack residential Wi-Fis. But I couldn't really find a whole lot of validating evidence on this. And thus, I didn't report it, except for talking to you guys right now about it loosely. Because at least I tried. All right. So let's jump into the cloud. And AWS earned the first spot. They earned getting talked about first. That's pretty much all I can say about it. Is that they've earned it. Now, I'm pausing here, blanking, because I actually had an article on Azure that I don't see actually here. Makes me a little bit sad. This morning just did not go well. Well, I'll cover it next week because it's timeless information. It's about their Kubernetes service, so it's not going to go anywhere. You'll be a week late on that information. My apologies. But anyways, AWS earned the right to go first here in this news. Okay, so Russell says that Maven has commons text as approximately 2,600 versus Log4j at approximately 18,000 use in artifacts. That feels like it has to be wrong because more than 18,000 things used Log4j, right? I don't know. Like, is that the number of times downloaded or unique projects that it's using? I don't know how Maven works. If it's unique projects, that probably sounds right, 18,000. And it could also be a dependency on a dependency. That's a good point, too. That's probably half of Log4j, or more than half of Log4j's as well. Yeah. All right. Thanks for looking that up. I don't know Maven really that well. I have used it every once in a while. Like, I have had to touch Android once, and it was horrifying. Announcing dark mode support in AWS Management Console. That's right. Probably the most important news of all the cloud news is the dark mode support in AWS Management Console. AWS has notoriously had one of the worst UIs. Now, I would say in recent days, it's gotten better. But every single time they make a change, it's like a massive change, disorienting, and sometimes it feels like it's for the worst until you get accustomed to it. You finally learn AWS's horrible, janky ways of doing it, and then they yank the UI right out from underneath you. Anyways, dark mode support in the management console. Absolutely huge. We can start saving electricity and our eyes. Amazon Antha announces an upgrade query engine Amazon Anthena announces upgraded query engine. All right, so SQL query engine to include the latest features of the Trino open source project. So basically, if you don't know what Trino is an open source project that allows you to query a bunch of things like SQL. So you can actually run Trino and Presto in front of Aerospike and have an SQL query engine in front of a NoSQL database. So you still get the awesome NoSQL and speed and reliability of Aerospike, but you still get your SQL. Why I see a lot of people using this is not because SQL in front of a NoSQL database is like the best thing ever. It's not that. Why I see it is for standardization. So a lot of large companies will be like, hey, we want to learn to provide one database and provide that one database really well. And then if a team needs SQL, we'll throw this thing in front of it for them. That's where I see it used a lot. So anyways, pretty cool. Amazon EC2 now offers an automated connection setup solution between EC2 instances and RDS databases. This has been a pain point for a lot of people. Setting this up securely where your EC2 instances are now able to connect to RDS databases instances can be a pain to actually do it securely, and this looks to be really convenient. You can now automatically set up that connection so that you don't have to do it yourself or try to figure out how to do it securely through some automated infrastructure as code or Terraform. And that's for AWS. Now we have Oracle Cloud here. This one came from the community. If you do find an interesting news article, you can leave it in a comment on this video, or you can join the Discord. Amazon announces MySQL HeatWave on AWS. I guess this is really AWS. It's a crossover, AWS and Oracle. HeatWave is available on. This is if you don't know what MySQL HeatWave is, it is the only service that combines OLTP, analytics, machine learning, and machine learning-based automation within a single MySQL database. It does everything. It even will cook you breakfast. Anyways, it is launched. MySQL HeatWave is launched on AWS Web Services, so you can go check that out. Other things in Oracle news is now making Java Discovery Service free to all. It used to be a paid service in the Oracle Cloud. They were just hoping to get paid customers, I guess. And once they figured out they couldn't get paid customers, they decided to open it up for free. Again, I'm not a big Java person. I don't know what this Java Discovery Service really does. I mean, I read about it. It allows you to discover if you have old, outdated. It's probably good for security because it allows you to look for outdated dependencies that have updates and security vulnerabilities. But again, it's not only is it Java, it's Oracle Cloud Java. Need I say more? Let's move on to Azure. All right, so Azure had a bunch of just PSAs for support ending. So community support for Node 16 LTS is ending in 2023, blah, blah, blah. So there's a bunch of that, just basically service announcements. I wanted to talk about this. Let's jump to the other things really quickly. There was a Stream Analytics, no code editor, and event hubs. I think no code for an engineering team is the dumbest thing ever. Pretty much. I've never really seen it work out well, except in very, very limited edge cases, where you have like a few little things. But I think no code or low code for technical but not technical teams, teams that are doing things in the cloud that are technical but aren't really technical, aren't loving to write software and things like that, is one of the biggest things to come. There is huge corporate teams that don't know how to program and don't know the difference between Go and Rust. But that's not your average technical person. And so I think these low or no code things are going to become really big. And I think that they're really important too, to enable those people that are never going to know how to code. But they might be able to pick up a no code editor. and they might be able to do some cool things with it. How many people use something to turn on their lights or not, and program in like a UI where they drag and drop, like, when I say red, my lights turn on? If we can start getting some stuff like that, that's awesome. General availability of Azure Savings Plan for compute. I think this could be a really big deal if you're running on if you're running on Azure. There is now a savings plan. So you can, as Azure says, quoting them, Azure Savings Plan for compute is an easy and flexible way to save significantly on compute service. So if you have a lot of compute on Azure, they say the word flexible. I haven't tried it, but it looks to help you save money with your compute. Basically, this is, from my understanding of reading this one page, is basically the reserved instances on AWS, so that you can basically pay upfront for a bunch of stuff, or reserve a bunch of stuff up front that you're going to use, and then get, on AWS, it's significant. You're talking about like 50% savings. An easy way to do this is do half of what you use, and then you're pretty safe. You can actually go down, and you're not paying for instances you're not using. All right, and then the last thing. Low code for analytics is no news. 10 years ago, I used it to work well. I would say that the general availability of Azure's Stream Analytics Editor and Event Hub is news because it just came out. Now, if you're saying low-code solutions for this or no-code solutions, I didn't say that this was new in the industry. And I apologize if you thought that I meant that. It's not. There's low-code and no-code solutions that are going around. I think these type of no-code solutions are really cool and interesting, and I like to see more no-code and low-code solutions in these clouds that target the technical, non-technical people. So yeah, sorry if that was if I was unclear in that. But yeah, the general availability of Stream Analytics no-code editor, though, going generally available. Yep, it is. All right. But yeah, you're right. They have been around for quite a while. Yeah, I mean, like, we could, you know what? I need to do an episode going over no and load code solutions in the clouds. There's actually quite a few. Azure or AWS has a pretty interesting one now where you can like drag and drop AWS stuff. It's actually kind of a fun way to automate stuff in AWS. I'm not going to lie. I had kind of fun doing it. I'm not sure that it's a really good method for a technical team, but a non-technical technical team, I don't even, I need to come up with a better word for that. But anyways, I think it could be really huge. Now, I talked about this a little bit last week because this was announced at Ignite, general availability for Azure Premium SSDs V2 disk storage. And I was really excited about it. Now, I'm a little less excited about it. I was talking to somebody at work about this, and they were like, "Yeah, but this is like still network attached." And I was like, "No, it's not. Absolutely, it's not." And they were like, "Yeah, it is." And I'm pretty sure they're right. I'm pretty sure I'm wrong. This is absolutely network attached. And you know what? I actually need to go and run performance tests on it. That's all that's going to happen. It's going to cost me a lot of money, and I'm going to do it. I am actually thinking about, there's a lot of things like this, like Kubernetes solutions, like SSDs, that I want to run these tests on. And so I actually think, I don't know, I've been arguing with my wife about whether I do this or not. Still not sold one way or another. But I have been thinking about making videos like once a month or something on these type of topics, like digging into SSD performances in the cloud and doing like metrics on them and running them for, a day with different loads to see how they perform. But that would cost me a decent amount of money, especially when you talk about like the cheapest AWS thing that has direct connect storage isn't cheap. It's going to be like $100 for that day. I don't know. I said $100. I don't know what the M5Ds are. Whatever the cheapest M5D with full storage is, which is the 2XL, I don't know. I don't know how much that costs for a day, but it's a non-zero cost. That's all my point is. So I might open up some Patreon to help with that. If you guys would want to see those videos, let me know if that's cringy. I don't know. I kind of hate it when people do that, but also I don't know that I can afford to do it without something like that. So anyways, if you guys would like to sponsor videos like that and would love to see those types of metrics, let me know. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Let's move on to GCP. All right. GCP, what's new in Google Cloud? As always, Google Cloud Spanner launches lock insights and transactions. I know I do need to get a sponsor before doing that. I just don't know that I'll ever be a big enough streamer or YouTube creator to get a sponsor that's going to help me do those types of things. That's my trouble. I really want to do them too. But that would be fantastic if I got a sponsor that would help sponsor those types of investigations, because that's what I would love to do. But yeah, so if you know of a company that would like to sponsor videos that just dig into things like what the difference in the clouds are, let me know. I doubt any cloud is going to sponsor that. Okay. So this looks interesting. I've never actually had this with Cloud Spanner launches lock insights and transaction insights. I don't use Cloud Spanner very much, so I've never had this, but easily troubleshoot lock contentions using pre-built dashboards. So this is the second milestone launch for Spanner Insights. Again, I've not had this direct problem myself, but if you have, I'm sure it's super useful. Klugel, that's the new word for Google Cloud, is Klugel. I don't know that they know it yet, but the Klugel Migration Center is now in public preview. So actually, you can go check out this blog, but it's something that has been announced before. It's been in private preview, so you could have asked for permission, but it's now in public preview. So I'm pretty excited about this. And then using Envoy to create cross-region replicas for cloud memory store. Sure, this is Envoy. It's not really Google Cloud. Yeah. So yeah, this is the migrate and modernize intelligently with Google Cloud Migration Center. It's a place to help you migrate. Let's be honest. That's what it's there to do. Get your spend on their cloud. All right, introducing sensitive actions to help keep actions secure. So this is basically just a more secure actions. So if you're heavily using their actions, yes, yeah. I don't know what more I'm going to say on that. We have a lot of stuff to cover, so I'm moving forward. Let me know if there's something you want to talk about a little bit more. The cloud with the fastest disk might. But see, this is my problem. So, Russell, if I let AWS, which I think actually has the fastest disks, and this is conjecture on my part, but I'm fairly positive it does, by probably a long shot. Wouldn't it still be biased if I said AWS is sponsoring this? I feel like, I don't know. I don't feel like that content can be unless if it's something like MongoDB, and MongoDB is never going to sponsor me. I'll never get a sponsorship from MongoDB. They're never going to sponsor that type of thing. I don't know. And then, yeah, so I have a conflict of interest, because even if they are the fastest and the best, it, to me, takes away from the validity of the test if if they're sponsoring it. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah. That's my problem with sponsors in the first place. I don't know. Introducing gRPC observability for microservices. So if you use gRPC a lot in your microservice architecture, gRPC observability is here in the Google Cloud. So check it out. And then ensuring fair and open competition in the cloud. This is an interesting read. If you're interested in the clouds, I highly recommend you read it. There's a bunch of stuff going on around this, and yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. We argue in the Discord from everything of whether GitHub Copilot should be sued or not, and so we talk about a lot of these types of things. So I would love to hear people's opinions on it. So read this article and join the Discord about it. I think I disagree with Google, but that's maybe just me. Yeah, somebody that needs super fast disks. If you find a company, let them know that I would love to do love to do that with them, if they want to sponsor it. Again, I think it's databases, and unfortunately, no database company is going to sponsor me. That's just kind of the world I live in. All right, so Google open source blog, here goes. This is an interesting thing that came from the Google Cloud, or I lump Google open source into the Google Cloud. Is back in, they created a faster way to iterate over Kubernetes controllers, so they created a new tool named KO. Now, this is something I didn't really know about. I've never used it, and I've never needed a faster, simpler, more secure container image builder for Go applications. It seems really, really specific. Like every other container builder builds container images for any project. This is specifically only for Go. I don't know. Has anybody ever used it? I don't know. It has been it has applied for acceptance into the CNCF. I don't know that they've applied for it to be in the CNCF. I don't know of its use, but if you do use it and you find it useful, I would love to know. All right, and that's it for GCP. Do you guys find KO, or is it Co? Do we just say Co? Co. Coco. Like the cool. Okay, anyways. I'm trying to be cool. It's failing. Let's move on to Cloudflare. The only thing I saw from Cloudflare was the page shield can now watch for malicious outbound connections made by third-party JavaScript code. I found this really interesting. Talk about zero trust. This is outbound connections from inside your server from basically third-party JavaScript code. So basically NPM. This is trying to protect you from things like, oh, I don't know, I use this package from NPM that does a thing, but it also mines Bitcoin at the same time. That's what it's trying to protect you from. So that's pretty awesome. Along the lines of the Co or KO from Google, Cert Manager becomes a CNCF incubating project. Now, to be honest, until this week, I didn't know Cert Manager wasn't part of the CNCF. So, to me, it changes very little except for this. The company behind it, which I believe is Jet, can't change their mind and decide to take it closed source anymore. They can't decide to change its license from Apache 2, and they can't do things like that. You can actually use this in the future and trust it more. So I think that's the biggest thing that changes here. Cert Manager, as far as its future technical and whatnot, I don't think it's going to get more developers because it's part of the CNCF. I don't think that it's anything like that is going to change. I don't think that the parent company is going to be less active in it. They're probably still going to drive it. Mostly, this just means that Cert Manager can't now just decide to go closed source. Normally the bottleneck is me. How do they compare security quality to other base images? Yeah, that's a really good point. I don't know code that very well, and that's why I'm reaching out to you guys. I'm gonna tweet about it later today, probably. How do they judge the fast container image? I don't know how they judge the security of the images made. I'm sure that you could probably run some it's still a Linux container, so the same scanning tools should be done on it. But yeah, so code build images effectively using go build on your local machine, and it doesn't require Docker to be installed. So I guess if you don't have Docker installed, that's great, but most people have Docker installed because they also do other stuff. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure of the value it brings. But maybe it brings huge value. But again, it's only to Go containers. All right, moving on. I know I got a late start and we're a little behind, so I am rushing a little. This one is going to bring excitement to Russell, and that's GitHub users want to sue Microsoft for training an AI tool with their code. Copilot was trained using billions of lines of open source code hosted on sites like GitHub. The people who wrote the code are not happy. Now, I actually think that this is a loophole in the thing. They're not copying and pasting your code. They literally trained a model that is spitting out code. Even if it resembles your code closely, unless if it's one for one and it's a significant portion of an app. I've been trying to look up significant portions of your app because when when you're talking about a license that looks at it, they're talking about the work as a whole. And so I've seen various things from like a few lines to like as long as it's, doesn't have a significant effect on the app as a whole. There's a whole bunch of argument about what is a significant thing. Anyways, I'm interested to see how this plays out in court. I really am, because I think one way or another, it could change the landscape of machine learning on code, on art, on a bunch of different things if you can't learn off of these open source projects. So I'm going to watch this pretty closely and bring you guys news on it, on things that happen in the future on it. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm interested in what happens here and how this shapes the future of these types of tools. Because guess what? Copilot isn't the only one. There's Tab9 is one, and then AWS has their own as well. That's another video I want to do. Which is the best code thing? This is why I need sponsors. Look, if you want to sponsor me, these wouldn't be expensive videos. If you know a company. I have a bunch of different ones that I want to do, but they'd just be expensive to do, especially with these. I feel like I would have to actually program with them for a couple of months to tell you how I actually felt. That means I have to pay $10 a month for a couple of months. I guess I can afford that. And then I'll make $1 off of it on my video. Anyways, interested to see this going forward. PyTorch becomes a Linux Foundation top-level project. All right, 1 second. I got to catch up with chat here. 1 second. Normally, blah, blah, blah. Oh, wait. Is it possible just... Russell says guilty. This kind of statements, without any explanation, bring open source software reputation down overall. Sorry, I apologize. Did I make a statement that brought the reputation of open source software reputation down? I don't know what I did. let me know if I did. I'll make a public apology for it. I didn't mean to, and if I did say something, that was probably me not thinking about the impact of what I said. So I do take that seriously. I don't want to bring down or degrade the open source software reputation as a whole. Because I think open source project is about having a community that wants to do a thing and finding other interested people that will want to do the same thing, solve the same interesting problem. And so there's no way that I would want to degrade that. I do take that seriously. So if I said something, let me know. Oh, okay. From the statements from the press release. Oh, thank you, Gregory. So no, I do take it seriously. So I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't something that I said. I get where you're going with that. All right. Yeah, the press release was interesting. If you guys want to know a little bit about this press release, I didn't get into the drama. I don't usually cover drama, but we can get into the drama of this one. I do know it. This first said that became a CNCF project. Like, the whole blog statement was that it was part of the CNCF now, because Google thought that they could just push it onto the open source community. And the CNCF was like, wait a second, we didn't accept it. So there was quite a bit of drama around that. There was updates that needed to be made to both everything has been has been applied to. You can check the Wayback Machine to see. I didn't save it. I'm sure somebody has saved it though. You can look it up on things. Again, I don't get much into the drama of those types of things though. I guess. All right. So PyTorch becomes a Linux Foundation top-level project. So PyTorch was originally created by, I think, Facebook. Meta. Meta AI Research. But now it's been donated to the Linux Foundation. Again, I don't think that much will change with PyTorch, other than you can expect that Meta can't all of a sudden decide to close source it. I don't think they were going to anyways, but who knows? So this is pretty cool, and yeah, they have a new PyTorch Foundation. So cool. Will censorship fork Ethereum? The leading question out there. Everyone vote right now whether you think censorship. There's a disagreement around sanctions, and all I have to say is, eventually, whether they like it or not, if a war breaks out or whatnot, well, there is already a war broken out. Sorry, I meant a war with the U.S. specifically. Sorry, didn't mean to degrade anybody that's actually fighting a war currently. The U.S. will take drastic measures there, and they'll be censored whether you like it or not, because you'll be considered an enemy of the state if you're helping its enemies. So, like, there's, like, this is where, like, the censorship argument, I think, kind of falls flat. It's a little bit hard to avoid. So, anyways, they've already talked about it because some people accept censorship and some people don't. The other thing is money laundering. Like, seriously, let's talk about Tornado Cash. That's another thing that got the entire thing in uproar, was a service for money laundering. That's like how they service themselves. That's how the SOE, if you searched for money laundering tools, Tornado Cash came up with an ad. They weren't even, I don't know that. I'm making a joke, whether they had an ad or not, but that's what they did, was money laundering. And so there was a ton of sanctions against it, and a lot of people in Ethereum wanted to fork Ethereum because nodes that accepted censorship, it's gone past 51%. So anyways, interesting argument there. This is a fantastic blog, engineering blog of the month. I'm going to put it, anybody that's interested in just nerding out on numbers for a little while, want to read this. So basically, it's about making machine learning more efficient, because machine learning is hard. and it goes into some really cool number theory. Absolutely super cool, about some new math for making machine learning more efficient. So basically, censorship on Ethereum would work this way. Nodes can accept to take, so people that are authenticating transactions, so now our centralized pool of people that own Ethereum, can vote on whether to accept a transaction. And if it's against a sanctioned thing, they can reject that transaction because they're sanctioned and say, we won't work with Tornado Cash. We won't let Tornado Cash make a new chain, a new block, however you want to think about it. We won't validate anything coming from Tornado Cash because they're sanctioned. That's a censored transaction. So right now, it's over 51% of validators actually accept these censorships, and so yeah. This was something I found on Twitter. I feel like I'm out of the times. I feel like as a YouTuber, I was meant to be ahead of the times. I was meant to be there. I think I'm missing something. Now, this is something else. I did see this. Why we're leaving the cloud. So, hey, a pretty cool email client. I haven't actually used it, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. I've been wanting to use it. They've been running on the cloud, and they're deciding to walk away from the cloud. That's a decision I haven't seen. I've seen people talk about hybrid. They're not talking about going hybrid. They're talking about going full bare metal. Something I have not heard about in forever. I don't know that I completely agree with all of their statements, and they actually have a pretty unique workload because there's not very many spikes. It's very pretty even, so they don't actually have the need for this big overhead of like, oh, we have a huge holiday spike. So I think they're a little bit unique as well, but it sparked this from Simon Wardley. I don't even know who this person is. He's probably super important in the whole thing. Seems to be. But you should have migrated to serverless years ago. I'm not interested in niche edge cases. And then he has a huge thread about this. But I wanted to bring it up. What do they mean by serverless? If I say serverless, do you mean AWS Lambda functions? Or do you mean like anything in AWS? Because everything in AWS is not me managing a server. Because I get really confused by the word serverless. And I honestly read through every single one of his tweets here and didn't really understand Whoa, I hate Twitter. Anyways, I didn't really understand what serverless meant when he said that everybody should have migrated to serverless. I think it means different things to different people. And, honestly, things like Lambda, I thought were dying out. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But I thought Lambda had kind of died. Not died. And there's actually some really good use cases. I actually use Lambda for like 3 things, not my entire architecture, just simple things that work really well with Lambda because they have some limitations. But there are other things that are serverless. Is MongoDB Atlas serverless? Because you don't pay for any servers, you just pay for a database. Is that serverless? I don't know, and I don't know what people are meaning by it. So, anyways, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. All right, this was another thing that was interesting that happened in the world. Internet connectivity worldwide impacted by severed fiber cables in France. So there was a lot of severed fiber cables. We're not talking about one, we're talking about quite a few. And if you guys don't know, these deep sea fiber cables are what connect the internet quickly across the world. Pretty big deal here. Not only was there in France, but there was also a fiber cable that was severed up here in some near some remote islands that actually cut off. So there was 2 sets. As far as I've been able to find, I was digging around on this. There was a lot of severed fiber cables around the world. Now, there was some finger pointing at a particular country that I don't need to name, but have been blamed for sabotaging stuff, some pipelines recently. But I haven't seen any definitive thing. There's still research. It does look like sabotage, like they have been cut. It wasn't like accident, because I know that some cables get damaged by like things like whales dying on them and things like that. So there definitely is chances of that, but this was multiple fiber cables were cut, and they were cut. At least that's what I know. There was already crews repairing them. So anyways, that is something that happened and caused widespread interruptions and delays in internet, as your internet traffic had to be routed through other pipelines that were now more congested. It was like rush hour, except without cars. Yeah, the BGP routers working overtime. Extreme Brexit. Extreme Brexit. We just cut all of our fiber cables. Gone. You need a passport to get across this fiber connection. Sorry. I'm sorry. It wasn't meant to be political. Just making a joke. Pocket Cast mobile apps are now open source. I don't use Pocket Cast apps, but their mobile apps are now open source. If you're wanting to get into mobile, this is a really good way to see how to design a complicated mobile app. That's how I learned to be a software engineer in the first place. Forbes, I wouldn't have reported this because there was some stuff about this from a US president a couple years ago, and so I would think of it as fake news. But Forbes reports that TikTok parent ByteDance planned to use TikTok to monitor the physical location of specific American citizens. That's pretty rough. It is a Chinese company. So, I don't know. Forbes is reporting it, not me. Again, I couldn't validate it. That's about as much as I know. All right, Ubuntu 2210 is being released with improvements for Steam app, GNOME 43, and RISC-V support. That was the big deal. RISC-V support is coming. There has been support baked in from people making RISC-V boards, but this is like real RISC-V support being baked into the base operating system. I'm super excited about that. I've always had, with my RISC-V boards, I've had a little issues here and there with some of the support. Not everything worked. It was like, oh yeah, you get 3/4 of an operating system, and bringing it all in is fantastic. All right. So that brings us to the open source projects. This open source projects. Yeah, I'll just say it again. Open source project. Now, as you all know, we've taken a little bit of a new approach. I'm asking you all ahead of time to give me some for next week. And so that's what I'm going to do again this week. Now, this week we picked offensive security tools, something that you can use. Now, again, only ethical hacking here, please. So please don't demonetize me. I need that 15 cents I make from these live streams. But that is not to say. Anyways, that's what we're going to cover today. Is just some stuff that we found. Actually, one of these that I'm going to bring up, I use on a not on a hacking basis all the time. I've literally used this quite a bit. It has tons of uses, so we'll talk about them. So next week. So last week we did, or the week before we did storage. Last week we did security things for like code and things like that, container vulnerability scanning. This week we're doing the offensive. So next week, I want you to give me your best developer enablement tool, open source developer enablement tool. Now I'm releasing this Friday. I recorded a fantastic video yesterday. That's going to be released this Friday. I'm on a roll. I'm making more videos for you all. It's going to be fantastic. But I'm going to release that on Friday. Monday, I want to talk about enabling developers and some projects that are out there, some open source tools that are there to help enable you. So let me know what your favorite developer enablement open source, and I know that's big and broad and vague, so bring it on. If Aerospike, it's a database, it enabled you as a developer, let me know. That's not probably what I'm going along, but I'm saying it can be literally anything that you like. All right, so let's talk about these open source projects. This first one, I don't know. That's not really an open source project. I have two that aren't really open source projects, but are kind of. Let's talk this one. Probably the best one to start with. Kali Linux. I run it in a VM all the time. I do a bunch of stuff with Kali. And you know, we need to do another hacking stream because those are fun. And I love having fun with you all. This is the most advanced penetration testing distribution. I think it's like one of the only penetration tests. Like, does anybody else make one? Because it's really good and it does what it needs to do. So it's good. And it's something I use. Another one, Nmap. Everyone uses Nmap. I use it in non-hacking terms all the time because I forget stuff. And I forget where stuff is put, and I just use Nmap. It's really great. Cain and Abel is all about brute forcing. I guess it does more than just brute forcing, but it's passwords on Windows. So yeah, if you forgot your password and have another computer, maybe. Wireshark is one that I use all the time. I've actually written custom Lua plugins for Wireshark. That's how much I have used it. And so yeah, that's how much I have used it. It's about that much, quite a bit. So definitely use it. But what it does is it looks at data going over the wire. So if you have like a really network intense thing and something in the network is going wrong and you're wanting to make sure different packets make it different places, this is what it does. It allows you to watch that. And that's what you can make custom plugins that actually know. Let's say you have a custom format of data and you want to actually parse it out in the packet. You can do that. It's actually quite cool. And yeah, I've used it for so many things. And if you have TLS or MTLS, you can actually give it the certs that you need and it can actually decrypt it. Pretty cool. This was from the community. I actually have no idea other than the README of what it does. A hex editor for reverse engineers. Everybody needs a good hex editor. You know what? I have never reverse engineered something like this, but it's actually pretty cool. I've actually wanted to do some stuff, not really reverse engineering, but basically looking at the compiled code of of different applications. I think it would make a fun video. And so we might use something like this to examine those different compiled codes, like C++ versus Rust versus Go versus I almost said JavaScript, but I need a compiled language versus another non-sucky language. So yeah, this is really cool. Programmers and people who value their retinas when working at 3 a.m. Nice. All right, and so those are the open source projects. This does actually look really cool. Now I have 2 services that are out there. One's kind of open source projects, but this one is Hack the Box. It's a great place if you're wanting to learn. It's a great place to learn. You can do a lot of stuff for free there, and it's absolutely fantastic. And so you can go out there and do that and test it out. The other one is Metasploit. It has a bunch of the framework, the open source framework. It is open source, has a ton of different things for you. But there's also a non-free version of it for commercial support. But yeah, the open source is free and open source. So those were my my hacking things. So next week, developer enablement. That's what we need to do. Let me know in the comments. Let me know on Discord, and we'll talk about your developer enablement things, whether it's been Kubernetes, whether it's Tilt, whether it's Google Docs. Those aren't, Google Docs is not open source, so it can't be Google Docs. Don't get me to Google Docs. You know what? I'm okay if it's a free service. If it's a free service that has just enabled you as a dev, put it on there. It's not really open source, but put it on there. I want to do this because I want to give communities of open source tools the exposure, and give you guys a chance to see these open source communities and what they bring to the table, because maybe you want to join their community, maybe you want to help them, or maybe you want to use the tool. So, all right. Let's see. Windows used to have a hex edit, Linux scanmem, and scanmem GUI. Yeah, oh, perfect, Rubber Cable, thank you. We could have... You should definitely be putting in your recommendations either on Discord or in the comments of this video. So scanmem is a good one here. That is a debugging utility designed to isolate and address arbitrary value in an executing process. Now, I actually use the compiler a lot of times. There's a bunch of tools for this that are actually really good for debugging. So obviously you can use these offensively, but also if you're doing low-level programming, like you're making a database or something like that, and you have a weird memory issue or something like that, these types of things can be invaluable to know of so that you can use and leverage then. Now, I know that's not a lot of developers, so it's very much edge cases, but that's why we need to talk about these things. So if you have that edge case, one, the Discord's a great place. There's everything from dirty C# developers there to C++ developers. So you can go and ask your questions there, and you might get somebody that has had a similar issue and points you in the direction of a cool open source project that can help you. Cheat engine. I hate people that cheat on games. I'm being serious. Why play the game if you're not... Why play an online multiplayer game if not to actually play it? I don't understand. I literally just don't even understand what's going on. Why play the game? I don't get it. All right. That was probably loud, sorry. I hope you all have a fantastic week. Sorry I was late this morning. Remember, next week, same time, same place, but the week after that, it's going to be different. I'm going to actually schedule these ahead of time so they show up on Google ahead of time for you guys. They probably won't have a right thumbnail until closer to the time, like the day before. It's really hard for me to make a thumbnail beforehand because I don't really know the news beforehand. This isn't recorded in future. So I kind of have to wait for the news to happen, and so that's why I usually make the thumbnail on Saturday. I've thought about going to just a generic thumbnail and just changing the title, so I might do that. We'll see. But I will schedule them out in advance so you guys know when they're happening and if there's a day that has to be changed. Because I do it on Sunday every once in a while, I do have something that comes up on Sunday, although I'll try to plan around it. We'll see. We'll see. All right.